Hello, found footage fans, and welcome to We Found a Tape.
Tape Talks.
Welcome to Tape Talks, a special new series from We Found a Tape. Here we sit down with directors, filmmakers and cinematographers to deep dive into the creative process behind found footage filmmaking, from writing and shooting to the journey of bringing these unique stories to life.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Tape Talks here, presented by We Found a Tape. Today we're joined by a very special guest, the writer-director of such movies such as Z, Superhost, Night of the Reaper, and his brand new film that comes out on Shudder March 13th, BODYCAM. We're joined today by Brandon Christensen. Welcome to the show, Brandon.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
Oh yeah, it's our pleasure. We had the great opportunity to see this before general release, which was a fantastic film, first of all, and the world is going to absolutely love it. It's intense from start to finish, and I'm curious on what were some of your influences specifically for making BODYCAM and the style it was. Also, any particular found footage movies that may have influenced you in the making of it.
Yeah, I mean, the first kind of the BODYCAM idea itself came from a very unlikely place. It was back in either 2015, 2016. It was watching Jurassic World, of all things. There's a sequence near the end of the film where there's a bunch of raptors and they have cameras strapped to them and they're going on this mission, and you're kind of watching this thing happen from first person on them. And I just remember watching it and being like, oh, I wonder if you could do a movie like that, you know, like a short film. And this is before I had done any features. So I was just like, I had no idea what to do with that idea. I just thought it would be cool. And so I thought maybe, you know, that maybe we can do like a traffic stop, something like that with body cams, and maybe there's a ghost involved. I didn't know. But, you know, I kind of pivoted away from that and started doing, you know, Stillborn and Z and doing all these other things. And it was like 2021, I want to say, when Curtis David Harder was producing VHS 94, and they had lost David Bruckner, who was doing the wraparound segment for it, and he had to go do Hellraiser with Hulu. So they had like this opening, and he was producing it, so he was like, maybe Brandon and I can co-direct this like wraparound thing. And so we were just kind of like spitballing ideas randomly, and I brought up the BODYCAM thing, and then we talked about a potential like accidental shooting, and then, you know, what could happen from that. And that was kind of all it did at that time. Like we both were busy with other projects. He went and produced that, and I did some other stuff. And you know, the idea just kind of sat there dormant for a bit. But then my brother and we had been writing a lot more, and you know, I brought up the movie idea to him, and like accidental shooting thing, and we just started kicking the idea around. And when we started talking about, you know, those videos on YouTube where you have people driving down these particular streets in like Philadelphia or something like that, and you see all these people that are, you know, very high on something, and they're all just kind of standing around in these awkward poses. And it was like, what if something was you know, what if there was more to it than what you see just by like looking at these people standing there? Maybe it's not just drugs, maybe it's something else. And that was kind of the idea starting to form. And it was like, okay, well, if there's this accidental shooting, we got to tie it into this other thing. And it, you know, the whole story started to snowball from that.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that Jurassic World was an influence. That totally did not come to mind when I was watching it. I was like, oh
yeah, you missed the raptor scene, I guess.
Yeah, well, I saw Jurassic World, and I loved it. That, you're so right. That was such a great scene in the movie, and I didn't tie the two together between BODYCAM and Raptor Cam. But that's so fun. That's so cool. What a great influence there. Yeah, you said there about VHS. It's funny because there's also VHS Beyond has like a similar
stork.
Segment there when they have the stork. Yeah, that was one I was getting huge vibes from that, and I loved that. I thought it was so intense.
I talked to the director of that briefly after I saw that, because I thought that was brilliant. I mean, the art design of all the monsters and stuff that they did was so cool, and like so above the level of their budget for something like that. Like that was so high end. Like the stork and all of the sort of creatures were just crazy. But we shot the film like way before that, and so when that came out, I was just like, damn it, they beat us, and that was such a bummer because we shot it at the beginning of 2023, and it's finally coming out in 2026 now, just because post production took forever. And so yeah, it was we got to watch the launch of the BODYCAM video game. We got to watch like Stork come out on the VHS thing. And we're always just like, it's okay, just keep going forward, just finish it and it'll be fine. And yeah, now it's done and it's fine. But yeah, it was definitely a little hairy there for a minute.
For sure. Yeah. And a lot of the videos that, really, especially for me, I don't know about anyone else, but I get a lot of those type of body cam type videos that pop up in like YouTube shorts, and they're showing all these like horrific crimes and like people who are like caught and things like that. So it definitely stays true to that realistic nature. I thought it was very well done. Very well done.
Yeah. I would say it's even a better time to release it now than it was, a couple years ago when we were hoping to finish it. But because, yeah, I mean, body cam stuff is everywhere, like there's so many channels dedicated to it. It's just, my entire feed is body cam stuff. And that's because I watch most of it. But yeah, it's definitely something that's like invaded pop culture a lot. And I think that now that is, the case, I think more people are open to the idea of a body cam horror movie, and being like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I get that. And then they understand the aesthetic,
Totally. David, I'll hand you a question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really enjoyed this movie, right? So it really had me guessing for a good while there, because I didn't know if it was it made it kind of seem like, as you're going through the movie, that there's like this underworld boss that has this control over people. So I don't know if it's, like somebody that has super psychic powers, or, what's happening here. It had me guessing so many different things, like demonic possession, some kind of like monster, something like that. And for me, it kind of turned out to be a little mixture of everything. I mean, although it was a monster creature, it kind of had all those elements to it. And speaking of the creature, do you feel that like, as far as the design goes, were there like so many different like decisions that were made going into the design of the monster, as far as like did we want to do it this way and this is how we ended up, or did you already have a set idea?
I had kind of an idea, and it iterated. Like the big thing that changed with it was the tentacle system that we have, and part of that was just because we there's a scene earlier in the film where they have all the tweakers that we call them, and they have the IV lines running, and we thought it would be really cool to kind of have a mirrored version of that. And it's like this thing is controlling everything above it with the same kind of tentacle thing, and it's just like visual symbolism. But yeah, it just seemed like a really cool kind of way that it could maybe be controlling this. Like she's drip feeding them to kill them, and he's drip feeding them to control them. And it's just sort of this fight that's going on. But we wanted to do, like, when we shot it, we didn't know that there was going to be a CG thing happening. Like we shot it, we had the guy that played Z. He came out and he did the actions for us on set. And then when we were in post and we had this VFX company on board, we just started talking about it. Like, is it possible? I mean, it's only like 6 seconds in the movie that you get to see this thing. So it's like, is it possible with our budget, which was very small, to make a CG creature to replace this guy, to make it, to elevate it a little bit more? And thankfully they said yes, because it gave us some opportunities to kind of throw some ideas back and forth. And I knew being underground and not having to use your eyes, we kind of hollowed out the eyes. And one thing that they added near the end when they were animating it was the teeth like wave like this. It's really bizarre. Like when it opens its mouth, the teeth move too. And I don't know how effective that would be for biting, but it looks really interesting. So yeah, it was just, it was a very collaborative process with the team, not just on the demon, but just on everything, because there's a few sequences in this movie that are way beyond anything I've done before, technically. And so really just leaning on that team for their expertise and like my knowledge of VFX, which I do normally, and just sort of blending the two to create a bunch of these things.
Yeah, it was really good, man. I really dug the monster, and being that, like you said, it's only like 6 seconds, 10 seconds in the movie collectively that you see it, it gives it that much more mystery, because there's something controlling everything, but still keep it a secret, but give a glimpse of what it is. So I really enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed the movie all the way around, but the creature especially, I thought it was a good touch to it.
Thanks, I appreciate that. That was like the one thing that, like, I saw a review on Letterboxd, and it's like 1 star out of 5, and it says you probably shouldn't have shown the creature at the end, and that's it. And I was just like 6 seconds invalidates 75 other minutes. I was like, come on, like that's not fair. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things, like, you know, because not a ton of people have seen this yet. You know, like it didn't have a huge festival run. It's been you know, we shot it in secret, and then, you know, the trailer coming out a week or so ago, that was kind of like its big coming out party. And you know, the interest has been high, and a lot of people have reached out to see it, and a lot of people have seen it now, but the general public hasn't, you know. And so I'm very curious to see where they stand on that, because, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think this movie is for everybody. You know, it's very dark and mean, and it's just like, you know, it's not a fun movie. And so I'm curious to see when it comes out, like what, you know, normal people that watch horror movies are going to think of it. Because, you know, if you're a found footage podcast, I'm sure that you are a little more open to some of the craziness that we're doing. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens here.
Yeah, it's always fun to see what the normal people think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I watched it with my girlfriend, and the first thing that she mentioned, and I'm not sure if this was an influence at all, but she mentioned that the creature kind of resembled sort of the artwork of David Firth. I don't know if you're aware of who that is, with who made Salad Fingers.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know that.
Yeah, she immediately was like, it's given me a lot of Salad Fingers,
funny.
David Firth art vibes. And she wanted to mention that. I was curious if I had played a part in it.
Not for me. The long fingers thing, that wasn't something I did. That was something they did, and they just sort of I liked it because it kind of went with the tentacle thing. Like, it was long, and it had these, you know, it just dragged on the floor. So I thought that was really cool. But yeah, now in hindsight, I could see the salad fingers comparison for sure.
Yeah, and he's a YouTube OG. His art is just fantastic. So if you're not familiar with him, definitely check it out. It's some creepy pasta type stuff before creepy pasta was a thing. So
right.
OG. As well, we also we got to see Sean Rogerson as the main star in the movie, which a lot of people would know from the likes of Grave Encounters, which is to many people's in their top 5 found footage movies ever. What was it like working with him? And also, what was the casting process like in getting everyone together?
I mean, casting was a lot. Like, I'd worked with Sean before. He was in my first 2 films, Stillborn and Z. And so we had a prior relationship. And when, you know, we started talking about doing a found footage film, it was just like, well, we have to talk to Sean. Like, he's the found footage guy, you know, like Grave Encounters, Lance Preston. Like, it's such an iconic role that we were just like, you know, Sean, you have to do this, essentially. And he's not really working a ton right now, not because he doesn't want to, and he's not, but he just sort of has stepped away from that. And so, yeah, I think it was cool for him to step back into it and like get back into that mode, because you see it with him. Like, he's a very cool and fun dude to hang out with. But when he's on set and he's doing a scene, you just see this like light bulb turn on where you're just like, oh, wow, he just brings it. And it was so cool to watch it like this. And it was like watching Lance Preston again sometimes, you know, like after the bathtub sequence, and he's sitting on the floor and he's got blood all over his face and his eyes are wide. And it's just like, oh, man, that's totally Lance Preston vibes. So that was great. I mean, you know, some of the roles, I mean, this was such a low budget film. We didn't have a casting director on it. We just sort of talked to people that we knew, like Keegan Connor Tracy, who I've worked with a bunch. She's the mother in the closet, and like, very thankless role. You know, she just gets to come out and be disgusting, and then, you know, she kind of disappears for a little while. But you know, I had her, and then she's friends with Catherine Hagquist, who plays Allie, the Jackson's mom, and so she connected us there. And it, you know, and it was just like people that we knew or that we knew friends of or something like that got us all these people. And then like Jamie Calica, who plays Jackson, he was just someone that was recommended, and we had some phone calls, talked through the project, and we seemed to vibe pretty well. And so just like, you know, he's just got this look. He just looks like who that character needs to be. And, you know, he's got a lot of great credits and stuff like that. So yeah, we brought him in too. And Angel, the girl with the crazy mouth that happens at that one point, that sort of become the face of the movie and all the thumbnails. Unfortunately, because it's funny because, and I'm gonna ramble for a second, the trailer reverses that moment and makes it look a lot goofier than I think it does in the movie because it's backwards. And like, I didn't cut the trailer, but it's always been like, it's I don't know if that works as well. It works better the other way. And so now that it's like the face of the thumbnails, I'm just like, God damn it. And it's but that girl, she was in one of my movies, The Puppet Man. She was Charlie, the girl that walks off the roof. And so, it was just like reaching out to people that we knew or who they knew, and sort of pulled it all together.
Amazing. Yeah, and the intensity of Sean that he brings to that he brought to Grave Encounters, that of course, and in this, like, it's almost like an elevated performance of it. I think the intensity of it was just so raw, and that particular scene that you're talking about, where he's sitting in the bathroom and he's just sort of rejigging himself, he's trying to figure out what's going on, covered in blood. And just that intensity just bleeds through the screen. I felt my pulse racing like so many times throughout the film, just because it's non-stop action. And the intimate nature of it as well, I think, because you're seeing it almost like from someone's eyes, really, right? Like the body cam strapped to them, and the intensity of that was so good. He was,
I'm glad it works, because I mean, that was the thing we didn't know going into this. Is like, is this going to work for a feature-length film? Like, are you going to get tired or anything like that? But as we were cutting it, it was like, no, this totally works. Like, they have a conversation in the basement about what they should do after the shooting, and like, Jackson has the bullet shells in his hand, and it's just like, you don't really see their faces very good. They're lit horribly, and you're just getting a very small window into this scene, but it felt right. Like, you're just like, oh no, I totally buy this. Like, I don't need a perfect close-up of them talking to understand the scene and the gravity and everything like that. So that scene, and that was maybe the second day, I can't remember if it was the first or second, but that was really that was just like a very informative scene to be like, oh, I think this might actually somehow work. And so that was cool.
Hell yeah. No, that's great. And with the scene with the mouth and everyone's got everywhere. Also a very tense scene. Like, there's not a lot of happy moments in the movie, like you mentioned. Was that part something that you had thought of during the writing process when you were making this? Was this like we want to keep it as intense as possible?
Yeah, I think, I mean, audiences now want to, they can tune out at any time, right? Like, you can turn on a 5-minute YouTube video and be like, 5 minutes, like, that's way too long, right? But like, so having someone watch a feature-length film is like, it's not a guarantee. Someone might turn it on, turn it off immediately once it gets bored. Like, you can't trust that everyone's going to stay. So if you can create something that just sort of goes right from the beginning, and there's some slower parts in it, but in general, it's always kind of pushing forward. And that was kind of the goal, is just to always kind of always move forward, always add another wrinkle to the story or whatever, just to keep the audiences engaged. Because it's, if you lose them, it's very hard to get them back. And it's just like, next, there's no shortage of things to watch right now, and so you're kind of fighting for that and competing for that. So if you can give someone something immediately and just like never let go, I think you can do pretty well.
For sure. Yeah, and especially with the found footage genre, one of the biggest complaints that people have is with even like a regular runtime, or even a short that's 60 minutes, is one thing that people complain of, is just that nothing happens.
Right.
And this is quite the opposite. A lot happens in a short period of time, and it just, the tension and the stakes just keep building and building. So that's what I think a lot of people will probably resonate, especially with the found footage community, from people that I've seen. Like, that's the main takeaway, is just the action starts right at the very start and never lets go, which is, I think, is going to be something that'll make this really stand out.
Yeah, and I think, if you compare, it's hard to compare this to other found footage movies, because just like the nature of what they're doing, there's tension immediately. You know, like you have like 60 seconds or something like that where they're just kind of dicking around in the car, and then once they get that call and the body cams trigger, you know, that they're just going to the thing, and there's an unknown and a tension that just comes from that. So, you know, it's different than if you're like the Blair Witch Project or something like that, where you have to set so many things up that are going to pay off later because you really have to spend time with the characters, get to know them. And this, it's more immediate, and you know, we as an audience already know that you know, they're going to a stop. We've seen this before. We've seen body cam footage. We've seen cops go and deal with this stuff. So you know, the audience is already familiar going into this. So you don't have to spend that time setting up that, like, all the, you know, the exposition of like, oh, you know, I'm a former Navy SEAL and blah, blah, blah. You know, there are some lines that are just embedded, like, oh, doesn't your mom live around here? And it's like, yeah, she's like 5 minutes away. Like things like that, that sound like throwaway lines. They actually do mean something later. But for the, you know, at the beginning, you're just like, you just think it's world building, and it is, but it's all just happening on the way to this call where everything's going to change. So we're just like trying to get as much as we can into a short period of time.
Hell yeah.
Now, excuse me, I'm sorry. My throat's all. So at the length of the movie as what it is, were there any scenes that didn't make the cut, that didn't make any sense, or were you more like kind of fighting to keep it or trying to get to that time?
Yeah, there was like at one point it was at like 71 minutes before the car chase thing at the end of the movie happens, which is like 3 minutes long. It was like 71, 72 minutes. And I kind of had a goal to hit 75, which is a dumb goal to hit in hindsight, but because you can always trim and like tighten a few things like that. And so I was just like kind of focusing on this 75 number that I wanted to hit, and we did. But yeah, there's a couple of short scenes. The one that sticks out the most is when they're first drive, you know, when he's after he's extracted the bullets from the body, and he's like, I've got a plan. There was a driving sequence where they're talking about another similar situation that Bryce dealt with like his former partner, that they got this person to delete the footage, and it was like telling us what we were about to see. And it was just like one of those things where I was like, we're just telling the audience what they're about to watch. So there's no real reason for this scene to exist. If we just cut there, then we're experiencing it from kind of Jackson's point of view, because he doesn't know anything. And the audience doesn't know anything either. So we're able to learn as he does. And that felt more impactful than kind of like setting the stage and setting it up. So that was one major scene that I can think of that was cut. But in general, it was just like the balance of, okay, how much can we cut without losing the tension? And you know, even in the underground, like when he finally goes down there, there were more hallways that he went through. But at the end of the day, it's like, how many hallways that are scary do we, you know, before you get tired of it, you know? And so we had to kind of keep building to these screams, and you know, a few spots were lost as he did that. And I think it totally plays still.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good stuff. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And then with the style of movie, obviously with the body cam footage, were there any particular challenges that you had run into with making that? What was the process like with that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've done 5 other regular type movies shot like with traditional cinematography, and one thing that you quickly learn is like, one, the actors shot the movie, you know, like that's actually on their chest, and so they had to learn their scenes both as a camera operator and as an actor. So they had to perform while making sure they were moving their body the way that we needed it to. And it became like this really technical dance that they would be doing. And then they would, you know, we had this camera vest that was built for them, and then they would flip when the other guy had to do it. So we would do like 2 different shots. And it was just cool to see them kind of go from like these tank-like versions of the scene, like where they're like operating at the hip and like trying to shoot the scene while they're acting in it. And then they take it off, and then they're in the scene, and now all that goes away, and they're just acting normally. And it was really funny to see them bounce back and forth. But yeah, it was just, you know, the biggest thing was just like, if you just have 2 people talking to each other, something like that, the fear is like, is this boring? You know, we've got 2 shots, we're just cutting back and forth. And so you start to kind of improvise new things, like, okay, well, maybe he takes the camera off here and puts it over here so that we can see him. And you know, how can we kind of play with the fact that these cameras are always recording? Like my favorite one is when they go to the girl and she's trying to delete the footage, and she unplugs it and puts it down on the table, and it's just shooting up at the ceiling. And then they kind of come into the shot, and they're, you know, they're oblivious to the fact that it's recording, but they're in the shot, and it's just like this accidental thing that you're seeing. And things like that worked really well for me, because it just kind of breaks up the chest mounted camera thing that was, you know, kind of for the whole movie. So anytime that we could be like, let's change it up. Like there's a scene where Jackson and his mom are talking, and there's just happens to be a mirror in the house right there, so you can see him, because, you know, there's nothing to cut to. It's just him and his mom talking, but you can't see him, and it's nice to see him. So we framed it in a way where it's like, okay, we can still see his performance, and we're showing like, hey, this is actually him. Like he's not, there's no fakery going on here. There's no guy filming this movie. It's him. And that was really cool too. Just like any time we could kind of play with it and show the audience what we were doing, I think it was really fun.
Nice. Yeah, that was one particular scene that also stood out, was there, because you get to see, like, it's a real body cam, and you know they're really having this interaction. It's not like camera trickery. Like it definitely,
right.
It's a way to add to that authenticity of it. I really appreciated that. I thought that was cool. Nice. And in terms of the you'd mentioned there, obviously, that you'd worked on more cinematic narrative films. Was your approach to making this different than it would be with the other films that you've made?
Yeah, it was, I mean, you know, when you're doing a film, like scenes have to have a design to them where it's like, okay, like this scene is about this and it's from this person's perspective. So I want to make sure that I'm capturing the scene from these specific angles that can create the mood that we want for the scene. And with this, it was almost like a stage play. Like every scene was very long. Like it's, you know, they're moving through a house. They're doing all these things. You can't just like cover it with traditional shots. You know, like the one thing I really like is after the initial shooting at the beginning, Jackson runs from that bedroom all the way to the basement in one take, and it doesn't cut. And like, you can't do that in a normal film. It just shows the whole house. You know, like anytime the actors were going into a room, there's no lights, there's no gear, there's no crew. It's just a creepy ass house, and they've got a flashlight and a fake gun, and that's it. And so it's like, from an acting perspective, it was really fun to watch, because like there's no fourth wall for the actors to kind of lose it. They're just fully immersed. Like they're going into this house. The crew's outside, because the guys can look anywhere, and you want them to look anywhere because that's where you would naturally do. So they're like checking all the places that you would normally hide a crew and a camera, you know, and all that stuff. And so we were just like watching it from a distance, being like, oh wow, this is like terrifying, because, you know, other than the times when like the camera falls or something like that, and you're like, no, and you have to do it again. It was just very immersive to be watching that, because it doesn't cut, it just moves and it goes, and you're just like, you know, you're just along for the ride. You can't do anything, you can't control it, just it's happening. So that was really interesting, and it just, you know, it was just, yeah, it was like directing a stage play, because there were so many technical beats in every scene that had to be hit, both from the acting and the technical, that that was why it was so funny to watch them like do the one action and then take it off and do it again, but do it totally normal. Yeah, it was just like a weird muscle memory thing they had. But yeah, it was weirdly different, but super efficient, because at most you had 2 shots per scene. So you're just like, okay, we're done this scene, move to the next one. Okay, you know, and it was a very fast shoot. It was only 12 days. So very quick.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
And with your other films, like what typically, what kind of time frame would you have for shooting, like Superhost or Z or anything like that? What was the typical shooting time for those?
Normally it's around 20. Like Superhost was 18, Stillborn, Z, and Papa Man were 20, and then Reaper was 22. And it's like, you always want more, and you can always use more. But on this one, we were like, this was enough. Like 12 was more than enough. Like all the days were pretty short. It was like 8 to 10 hours. And we were always shooting at night. So it's like, you only had so much nighttime to work with anyways. Once the sun starts coming up, you're kind of screwed. So it was, you know, it was just like a short and punchy shoot that just, you know, we did 3 weeks of 4 days. So there was a lot of prep time. You know, we had 3 days of prep every week, and then we could go back into it. And yeah, it was just like very fast feeling. You know, it's hard. You know, most days you've got like lists of shots that you have to get. On this, every scene you walk in, you're like, okay, there's two shots. It's Bryce and Jackson. They're just going to go through it, and we're going to see what happens. Because there's like certain things you need to hit, but there's so many surprises along the way that you're like, oh shit, that was cool. Let's like make sure we get that on the next one too, and build that into the scene. So there was a lot of that kind of improvisation with how the takes went, and kind of they built themselves as they went, which was cool.
Nice. Love that. If now that you have experience working in a sort of found footage type genre, is this an area that you would see yourself working in again? Is this something that you would make another found footage movie, more towards the tropes rather than like a body cam?
I don't know. I don't really like plan too far ahead with like, oh, I got to do this or I got to do that. I think if the story like dictates it. I mean, Night of the Reaper has found footage elements. It has these like the snuff tapes in it. Superhost had the vlogging element, which we used to different effects in that. Puppet Man, it had some like found footage things with them filming on their phones and watching these tapes. So I mean, like every movie I've done has had some sort of acquired format in it, like where that's a diegetic recording of some sort that we watch back. And I don't know if that's just because technology we're always being recorded, so there's no shortage of these things that you can take. I don't know why it keeps happening. But yeah, it felt like this was definitely a natural next step or a side step or something while I was just kind of like playing around. Because I'm trying to not do the same thing twice. Like Z and Stillborn were very similar. It's like mom and kid movies. But then I was like, no, I got to do something totally different. I did this weird social media Superhost thing that's like kind of funny and kind of dark. And then Puppet Man's on the total opposite of that. And then Night of the Reaper is like a throwback. And then this is found footage. So, I mean, horror is so cool because there's so many places to play, and so found footage was something I've always wanted to do. And there was a time in my life when I was really trying to shoot, to be the director of Grave Encounters 3. And like before I'd done any of my films, because I've known the directors of that forever. And, it never happened, but it was like, an opportunity to just sort of like read a script and see how I might do it. And so I think, and I'm in Grave Encounters 2 in a very small part at the beginning. So it's like, I've always been around it, and I've always wanted to do it. And this was just sort of the opportunity for me. So I don't know if it comes back, I'm not against it. It was super fun. It's just a different challenge, and I love doing it.
For sure. And you mentioned there obviously Grave Encounters. Did you see Strange Harvest? And I'm curious on what your
I'm
thoughts
in Strange
there.
Harvest too.
You're right. You are?
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Yes. Well, Stuart Ortiz, the director of that, he was one of the directors of Grave Encounters, and like the first movie I ever worked on, he was a producer on too. It was called It Stands the Sands Red. It's like a zombie in the desert movie. And Stu and I we've known each other for forever. But yeah, when he did Strange Harvest, he was like talking to all his friends to be like, hey, he asked me, he's like, can you film your kid's birthday party or something? Because there's like a 9-year-old in the film that dies. And I was like, I have my 9-year-old birthday footage. And so I sent him it, and he's like, oh my God, this is perfect. So there's a kid in the movie, Noah Lafone. He's like a 9-year-old kid that they find in like a muddy puddle or something like that. All the pictures of the missing kids and like the home videos that they show, that's all me.
Wow.
Which is funny. So yeah, no, I'm very familiar with it. And I remember because he has BODYCAM segments in his movie, and I was like, I think when he went into production, I shot pretty shortly after him. And I was just like, it's like, oh God damn it, another person did the BODYCAM thing. But fortunately it's kind of a smaller part of it. But when you watch the trailer, the one that Saban put out, it's like, it feels like it's BODYCAM. And I was like, God damn it. So yes, very familiar with Strange Harvest.
Brilliant. Yeah, that was for me, that was one of my absolute favorites last year. I watched it, I don't know how many times, 3,
Cool.
4 maybe. I thought it was fantastic. And
Well, let's do now.
hell yeah. He's someone we'd love to have him on. Him and Colin, obviously talk about Grave Encounters, which Grave Encounters is getting a reboot through Justin Long, which is going to be interesting to see, that sort of Hollywood touch coming into sort of mainstream horror and also independent horror and the subgenres that revolve around it. And I think I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, for sure. I've talked to him a bit about it, but I don't know too much.
For sure. Yeah. No, I tight-lipped. I totally get it, and I think the world is. I think we're ready for more grave encounters. I'm looking forward to it.
For sure.
Also, as well, just about body cam. One other area I was curious on because I thought some of the locations that were incredibly creepy. The house of Jackson's mum, incredibly beautiful. I'm curious on sort of whereabouts the filming took place for body cam and the location scouting for that. How was that?
Yeah, it was I mean the biggest location that we had to find was the house, like the house that they go to in the movie and they do everything happens at. That was definitely the biggest challenge. And it, we kind of just were driving around different communities in Calgary, and we drove by this house and I was just like, that's the kind of house we need. And Chris Ball, one of the producers, he was sitting in the car and he's just like, well, why don't we just go get that house? And I was just like, okay. And so he jumps out of the car, knocks on the door. No one lives there because the people that lived there died like a year or two ago. And so he walks next door to knock on that door, and the guy opens it, and he's like, Chris, and he's like, Peter, and they were friends and they knew each other. And he's just like, yeah, I've got all of the information of the neighbors and like who you need to talk to shoot in that house. And it was just like this serendipitous moment that he just sort of created by just being ballsy enough to go ask. And yeah, we found that it was like some home developers bought it and with intentions of ripping it down and rebuilding, because it is the most disgusting house. Like when we walked in, we have footage of it. We walked in and we're just like, oh my God, like it smelled like death. It was funny because right near the front door, there was like a vacuum and all of these brand new cleaning products. Because I think what happened was their children, after they passed, they came and there's like that community meme where Troy walks in with the pizzas and everything's on fire and they just drops the pizzas. I feel like that's what they did when they walked in. There's like, we can clean this up, little elbow grease, and it's going to go a long way. And they walked in there just like, nope. And then they closed the door, locked it, and just walked away from the house. They're like, tear it down. We don't want this thing. And so, it was as disgusting as it looked and worse. Everybody was getting sick. By the end, we're all wearing face masks just because you're breathing in God knows what. And so, that was just like a total home run location that we got lucky on. And then, like the Underground, that's a brewery, like that's been closed for some time. They actually shot The Last of Us there. So when you see there's like a mural of a children's drawing on the wall that he looks at briefly, that was from The Last of Us, and they just left it there. And I was just like, screw it, use it, like texture, free production design, right? And then there was, the other big location was the burnt down building that they go to when they meet the tweaker and they go up with him. As written, it was supposed to be like an elevator ride, and like all the doors had like tweakers in them, and it was like this weird, creepy thing, but we couldn't find a location that worked for it with our budget. So we found this old hotel like an hour away from Calgary, and half of it had burnt down at some weird time, and they let us go in there and shoot. And we, it was only like a 2-story building, but we faked it for several. And yeah, we were able to do it all in there. And again, we didn't have to dress anything or anything. And then lastly, that alley house, Jackson's mom, that's the same house that I shot. Have you seen Stillborn or Z?
I've seen Z, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The house that she moves to at the end of the movie and she's like living with Z, that's the same house. So I've shot there 3 times now. And now, unfortunately, I think it's gone because we were the last people to shoot there because the homeowners, I think one of them died and they sold. And now it's like a key location downtown. And so I'm pretty sure they knocked it down.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. The sort of burned down building and the underground tunnels were really what I was very curious on. And watching it, I'm like, I'm so curious on where this would be, because finding this would be just an absolute dream for a filmmaker. And totally. It was intense looking.
And it was funny, like a year later, we did a pickup shoot. We shot, the scene where there's all the tweakers in the line that stop the police car, and there's like it's like raining and all that stuff. We shot that like a year later, so we had to bring the actors back. Like Sean had to reshave his head, grow a mustache again, and it just needed something like that in between the 2 scenes that were there, because it was just like kind of going, okay, this happens, then this happens, and we didn't have like oh wait, like something creepy, we needed something there. So that was what we came up with. And we also wanted to add, like, there's a chase scene in the underground. It's really short, and it was supposed to be longer. And when we did the pickup shoot, we're like, okay, we've got all these shoots we want to pick up to add to this. And so we booked the brewery again. And then the night before we were going to do the pickup, the brewery people called me. They're like, hey, I know you have us booked for tomorrow, but someone snuck in and broke into the tunnels last night, and we can't find them, and we can't let you in there to shoot. It's not, it's just too risky. It's the liability thing. And we were just like, so we had to like scramble and find this short, small tunnel location that we were able to get like 1 or 2 shots out of. But yeah, a lot of it wasn't what it was supposed to be because we just couldn't get back in there. But yeah, that was funny because it was just like, you just, when you have no money, you just can't, you have to deal with what you can get. And that was just one of those shorthands that we were dealt.
Totally. Well, it was effective. Absolutely. I think it definitely shines through. This looks like one of those like higher budget found footage. I don't know if like obviously Cloverfield is one of the most prominent ones. Like it's up there in terms of production value. It looks like it looks fantastic. Like Paranormal Activity, Oren Peli shot it, I think, in his own house and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of these locations were just so creepy looking, and that house in particular, I feel like I could smell it through the TV.
Yeah, it's gross.
I can't imagine the stench that would have been there for you guys. But
for sure.
I'm curious about the hole in the ground. As far as like, was it something that y'all made, or was it part of the brewery where you shot, or the house?
It was just a green screen on the ground. So like we cut this piece of green and then put rocks all around it to make the shape. And then we had the VFX team that came in, and there's I think there's 3 shots that they did where the hole actually had to be 3D, like when they walk up to it. And then all of the other times it's just in the background. So it's just like a 2D element that I put in. And so it was just like total fake. So yeah, and it was like, that was another thing that I shot without really understanding how it would work or how we should do it. And if I could do it again, I would do it way differently, and it would be 10 times easier. But at the time, that's what we did, and it was it was awful to do in post. Like those shots took so long, and they had to get match movers to do the scene. And like I've got super cool behind the scenes footage of the process of it because it was so technical and challenging. But yeah, the fact that you're asking that makes me think that you didn't think it was VFX, so that's good.
Yeah, and I didn't think it was the effects. I thought it was really part of the house or the brewery where you shot at. So, I mean, I was convinced.
Good. It's one of those things like why would it be CG? That's weird. So it's like good enough to work. And it's funny, anytime like the VFX starts slipping or you see something looking a little off, I would always just like lower the bit rate of the video for like a second or a half a second. And then it would just kind of like all go into these like crappy pixels, and you're like, good, it's gone. Like it's fixed. And anytime we couldn't spend the time or money to fix something, I would just mess with the image a little bit because it's, again, no money, no time, right? Or I guess we had time, but no money.
Yeah, and that's the good thing about found footage. I mean, a lot of directors that come into it, they come in with little to no budget, so it's using everything around you, in any way you can. Always got to improvise and do this instead of that. So that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely like in the limitations you find a lot of creativity.
Yes,
and yeah, we definitely found that on this.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm with David. I thought maybe like extending the hole or like maybe the texture element, because you could when they peek over, there's like almost like a living, breathing type hole right there. I was like, oh, maybe it was just like some sort of drainage thing, and they've just added the effects to make it look like that. So yeah, I was fooled as well. So
yeah. No, all CG, all that was another thing, like thank God it worked, because that's such a pivotal piece of the film. And so yeah, happy it worked for sure.
Hell yeah. And you said there it took quite a number of years to really get it ready to come out. Roughly sort of how long would you say you spent on the post-production element of it?
We shot the film in April 2023, and then we had like a first edit of the film probably in the fall, I think, like a first real edit, and then I took the edit from that editor, and I started to do my own thing because I actually like I was in post on the Puppet Man, and I was sound was taking time, and I was just getting really kind of anxious and frustrated. So I was like, let's hit pause. I'm gonna go shoot another movie, and so I went off, shot body cam, came back, and finished Puppet Man. And that wasn't like a quick fix thing. There was so much VFX on that I was doing that I just burnt myself out so bad on that film. So I took a few months off, and then I came, and I was able to start working on BODYCAM, and that's when we found the VFX company. But yeah, so when we wrapped shooting, I think early May, and we finished it in July of 2025. So it was like just over 2 years full of post production, and there was the pickup shoot where we did the tweaker lineup, and we also did the driving sequence because we did that in the volume. And so those two things were done a year later. But yeah, it was just like and then another thing was that I shot Reaper, and I was doing all of the post on that. Like I edited that fully, and I did all the VFX. So I was like, we shot that at the end of 2024. From 2024 October when we wrapped until July of 25, I was just like every day bouncing back between two projects and like overseeing their VFX while doing VFX on BODYCAM. And then I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going back to Reaper. And then I would work on that. And it was just like, it was brutal. And so I finished Reaper on July 1st, and then I finished BODYCAM on July 15th and delivered to Shudder. And it was just like, it was like two giant anchors just let go from me, and I just was like totally untethered. And it's been weird because I haven't been working on anything since, like Puppet Man, I was working on that when we shot BODYCAM. So I was in post-production from March 2022 until July 2025, just on different movies. They were like leapfrogging each other. And yeah, it's super stressful. Like it sucked, but I'm glad I'm glad I did it, but I'm glad it's over for sure.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds way too stressful. I don't know that many could do that, especially with such the sort of differing styles, and you're basically taking hats off and putting the hats on. Because okay, now I'm focused on BODYCAM, and now I'm focused on Reaper, and then I'm focused on Puppet Man, and that must have been a logistical nightmare in your head. But it all
for sure. But it was nice too, because I could like, once I got tired of one, I had another one I could work on. So it's like you could like bang your head on the wall here, and then you'd be like, why, I gotta stop. I need a break for a week, and I'm gonna move over here and do this one. And yeah, I learned a lot, and it was just like I learned what not to do, which is do that. And it was just it was cool, and I'm proud of the fact that I did it, but I don't want to do that again.
Yeah,
I don't blame you.
I get that.
And a lot of the movies that you've mentioned, a lot are very prominent on Shudder. I assume you've had a very good relationship with Shudder. How has that been? How did you get involved with Shudder? I'm curious.
Yeah, that goes back to my first one. We had our world premiere of Stillborn at the Overlook Film Festival, and both Shudder and this other company, Vertical Entertainment, they were both kind of trying to get it and pick it up. And Shudder was offering, I think, more money, but Vertical was offering physical, like they were going to do a Blu-ray or whatever. And so we were like, I was just like, it was my first time. I didn't, streaming was still pretty new back then. This was like a 2017 or 2016 even. And it was just like, I'm going to go with the physical and like the traditional thing. They're going to put it out in 10 cities and like theaters and kind of do that thing, and that sounded really good to me. And then Shudder ended up just buying the streaming rights for it anyways, and so it was kind of like the best of both worlds. And Shudder put it out on Mother's Day, which was just like, oh yeah, like they totally understand this movie. And then when we did Z, it was they weren't a part of it until after we had wrapped and everything, and they were really interested because Stillborn did well for them, and so they acquired it when we were in post-production. And then Superhost, kind of the same thing, post-production, they bought it. And Puppet Man was like the one movie that they financed fully, and they gave us a chunk of money. And I was brought in to write and direct that with my brother and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's been great. I mean, they've given me a platform for my movies, and like I've been able to, I think I've made more movies with Shudder than anybody else has. This is my 6th with them. if you include Stillborn. But yeah, it's been awesome, and I've got a call with them next week, and hopefully I've got some things cooking for this year. But we'll see. But yeah, they've definitely helped sort of give me a career, and I'm eternally grateful.
Amazing.
It's awesome.
And I'm curious on typically when Shudder has a release, they typically curate movies that work alongside it. So I'm going to be very curious to see what sort of accompaniment they'll have with BODYCAM, because I love what they did with they had like a Japanese horror one, and they just put out a bunch of these great J-horror movies. They also had a found footage documentary, and then they curated a bunch of just solid found footage that they put on there. And of course, VHS is massive on Shudder, so I'm very excited to see that.
Yeah, I'm curious if they'll do another VHS again, because I know that there's some rights issues or something, so I don't know if there's going to be another yearly one.
Yeah, I've said this a couple of times. I think the one area that they're missing is a Christmas themed one. I think that would be really great, because I mean, everyone's if you're in the 80s or 90s, everyone's childhood was shot on a VHS camera, and if they're bold enough to go down the route of a Christmas themed horror of just violence and videotapes, I mean, I'm there for it.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'm in. Let's do it.
Hell yeah. Well, you can let Shudder know next week.
Right.
I'll hand it over to you, David. I know you said you had some other questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming up, big fan of horror that you are. What are some of the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s horror movies that have made an impact on you or nostalgic to you, and that you enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, when I did Night of the Reaper, I got to talk about this a lot because there was so many influences in that movie. Like When a Stranger Calls was a huge one when I was a kid. I saw it at a birthday party when I was in the 8th grade, and it was just like a really cool core memory of just sitting with a bunch of friends, like eating pizza and drinking soda, and just like watching that opening 20 minutes is just this iconic piece of cinema, and being able to experience that in like the perfect way was such a great memory. I mean, the 90s were so big because that's when I was born in 85, so the latter half of the 90s, like Scream came out at the perfect time for me. That was such an insanely, I mean, today it's incredible too. Like, it's just such a good movie. Of course I'm drawing a blank. I mean, Blair Witch Project, that was just the way I saw it, because I mean, I'm sure you guys were around when that came out, and it was that the viral marketing, and was never a thing until that. And I went to a midnight screening of it before it came out that my cousin got tickets to, and it was a midnight screening, and all we knew was that this was real, and so we were in Langley, British Columbia, and it's like a very undeveloped area, and we had to walk at like I don't know, it was like 11 o'clock or something like that to the theater, and we had to go through this undeveloped forest area. And walking to the theater was fine, but when the movie ended at like 2 a.m., I was just like, there is no way I am walking home. And so we called his dad, my uncle, and he came to pick us up, pissed off, at like 2 a.m., drove us home, and I was just like in my cousin's house trying to fall asleep and just sobbing, and I was like 13. I was just so scared of what I just saw. I was like, because again, I was led to believe it was real, and that was just an incredibly impactful, like, cinematic moment in my life that I mean, there's allusions to that in BODYCAM, like when they go down at the end and Jackson's facing away in the corner. It's like obviously a nod to Blair Witch, and it's cool to be able to just kind of put things like that into your own stuff, just things that inspired me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah. It's funny you mentioned that about Blair Witch. I had a similar experience when I saw Paranormal Activity for the first time. I got to see it like opening weekend. It was in Scotland, and going there, I would walk to the train station, and everything was fine. And then after I saw the film, walking home from the train station was such a trip. You could feel as if there was someone behind you.
Right.
You could hear all the branches. And I mean, it was a fairly populated area. It wasn't like it was like in the middle of nowhere, but it was still out there enough, and I had to walk past this like creepy area in order to actually get home. So
that's funny.
That was great.
Yeah, that was one that when I saw it, I had to go alone because my wife doesn't like horror. And I watched it, and it was like middle of the day, maybe like 6, 7 p.m. when I got out. But I went home, and my wife and her mom had gone out for dinner or something like that. So I was just sitting in the house, just like alone. And like all of a sudden, all of the creaks and the normal house noises that you know and have known forever, they took on like a new life. And you're like, what if that's not and you start playing that mind game. And I was just like sitting there alone in the house, just completely terrified, and that was super cool. The Ring was another huge one, like seeing that in theaters when it came out. That's such a banger of a film for sure. And that kind of changed every time you see White Snow on TV, like the static, it just for a while there just freaked you the hell out. And that was in the VHS era where that was very common. So that was one that sticks out for sure.
Hell yeah, I love that. And now we get to the point in our show where this is my favorite question that we like to ask people, and I'm going to pass over to David because it's his baby. We ask everyone this question, so David, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So so it's movie night, right? Whether you decide to go to the movie theater, whether you decide to do it at home, what is your snack go-to setup?
Snacks, peanut M&Ms, 100%.
Peanut M&Ms. All right.
They're and Costco you can get these like jugs of them. They're like a giant jar, and they're like in Canada they're like $17 or something like that. Pound for pound, the best deal you can get there. I love popcorn too, and those two combined are excellent. Very buttery popcorn. But I don't know what it is about peanut M&Ms, but they've just anytime there's an event, it's like, oh, it's Super Bowl Sunday, I'm going to get peanut M&Ms. Like that's just sort of the treat that I like to splurge on, and it's very dangerous, but it's very good at the same time.
Especially if you got a jug from Costco, that's impressive. You can polish that off.
I could do it. Yeah, that's for sure. That's a couple days. It's not a good couple days, but it's a great couple days. But they go quick. I have to not buy those.
How epic would it be if they sold like a 5-gallon bucket with the handle and everything in the lid? You just take it home. It just has a little spout that you can flip up, and you just turn it sideways and pour it out.
Yeah, do like a keg stand with M&Ms.
Right.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that. David's snack setups everyone usually loves it. I think you might a lot of people in Canada love pickles. I don't know if you're a pickle guy or not, but
I don't mind them, but
David's snack.
The pickle thing is always with popcorn with me. That's like a common thing here in Texas. Like a dill pickle, you'll get the whole one. You order your popcorn at the stand, and that's how I do it. But here at home, I've always told everybody that we interview, we ask them the question. I always have like 7 different kinds, like as far as cuts. It's usually the same brand, but they're cuts. Like if it's a spear, if it's chips, if it's whole pickle, things like that. Sometimes I'll go with a different brand if it's like a garlic flavored pickle, things like that. But there's always pickles in my fridge.
Crazy. Yeah, I mean, I do like pickles. I just never would put that, but I guess like people put like jalapenos in their popcorn and stuff, and texture wise it's very similar. They're just sweeter. That could be good. It's like sweet and salty. That makes sense.
Yeah
where I come from as well, sweet and salty is an option for popcorn at the movie theater in the UK. So like the kettle corn, I think everyone calls it here.
Right. Love kettle corn.
Yeah, it's good. And with the UK, it's either sweet or salty. It's not usually buttered popcorn, which I found strange coming to Canada. When I went to the movie theater, I was expecting like, okay, you can either get sweet or you can get salty, or you can get a mix of both.
Right.
Peanut M&Ms are definitely a go-to for me. Or Reese's. Reese's peanut butter cups are a go-to for me as well. I love that.
Okay, nice.
Hell yeah. Brandon, we really appreciate you taking the time to sit and chat with us. We had an absolute blast watching BODYCAM. We can't wait for the world to see it and admire the work that you've put into it. Where can everyone find you on social media, and tell us about anything you've got coming up next? Instagram's kind of the main thing, just the Brandon Christensen. Not sure what's going to happen next. Hopefully I have a little bit more clarity next week, but
It's a weird industry. It's very you never know what's going to happen. So we've got a few scripts that we've written that we'd love to do, and hoping one of them can go this year because I'm dying to get back on set. I miss it very dearly. Do you guys, when you watch movies like this, do you ever watch them together, like at the same time, or do you just
Sometimes,
sort
yeah.
of watch them? Yeah, that's cool. And just like chat or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Sometimes we'll FaceTime each other like this, and then we'll just like start the movie simultaneously and just start watching it
Right.
on our own sides, and we'll comment back and forth during the movie, like, did you see that, or we hit a funny part, we're laughing about it and things like that. So yeah, it's usually like whenever we're video chatting, stuff like that. The rare times that we can get together, it's usually for about a week, and that's like a week of like staying in a cabin and binging movies and eating trash food.
Cool.
So
Nice. Pickles for days.
Hell
yeah. Oh yeah.
Right on. That's cool. Yeah, I love that.
We usually go to Michigan, and the Michigan pickles are something else. So David loves
Nice.
the Michigan pickles.
The McClures.
The McClures.
That's cool. I mean, what other genre brings people together like that? Like horror is such a unique thing. Like there's comedy festivals and stuff like that, but it's different. Like, and I feel like horror is like international. It's not just you're from Scotland, you're from Texas. It's like I'm from Canada, but we all just love the same kind of stuff. And it's really unique that way. And that's it's fun to be a part of that.
Hell yeah. And I mean, like, to your point, like there's so many horror specific conventions. There's
totally
every subgenre of horror is always represented. There's always I do find it hard to find found footage stuff at some of these horror conventions. You'll find a random movie, DVD, VHS, or whatever, but I'm always looking for like things like patches or hats are usually my go-to. But I have like a horror vest that I've got like a ton of different patches on, and I'm always looking for like found footage ones to add to it, and I like to wear that to conventions. So, but you're so right. It's such a global, universal genre that really brings people together. It's such a violent and sometimes very uncomfortable. Some of these movies are. It really it brings people together, and everyone's divisive on their different tastes, but collectively everyone's like, yeah. And the Facebook groups are where you get to find out where people's real interests are, and especially the found footage ones. They're very vocal. If they don't like something, they do not like it. But for every one or two of people that don't like it, there's usually about 5 or 6 of people that are in there defending it. Like what you like. If you enjoyed it, then you go right ahead and you tell people. And there's a lot of love being shown to BODYCAM on there from the people that have saw it. So that's always exciting. And people are getting really hyped to see it. So I'm really, really excited to see the reviews coming in and hear what people's opinions are on it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's gonna be wild. It's shot it in secret, and now it's gonna be finally out there for everyone. So it's gonna be weird to see if the secrecy and all the things were worth it. Tune in next time. We'll find out.
Brilliant.
Tune in.
Thank you so much, Brandon. This was an absolute pleasure. If there's ever anything again in the future that you're working on and you want to spread the word and talk about it, the door is always open to us.
Cool. Yeah, hopefully I have something soon that I can start to noodle over. But right now I'm in this weird thing that hopefully ends soon because I want it to end immediately. So we'll see.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for taking the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have a good night,
guys. Appreciate it.